Well, I suppose I won't be done with Yoshiki Takeya's Guyver series until they stop making anime about them. I'll be touching on the proper series soon enough, but for now I'm taking a gander at what else was in the pipe. I could probably retitle this episode as Why It's Super Important to Have a Style Guide and have the same effect, but that comes later. Unlike the first OVA, this was created by Studio Wave with Hiroshi Watanabe directing. He's had a fairly storied career, mostly working on the Slayers OVAs and movies through the 90s. Ironically enough, he had a longer directorial career than either of the directors of the other two OVAs, so I suppose that means he wins? Sure, why not? The OVA was an hour-long mini-movie that was released in 1986, not terribly long after the Guyver manga started. And boy does it show. The designs for this OVA are a pretty huge departure from the art that Takeya put out in the first place, though in some places they work better than others. But enough of that, let's get down to brass tacks. The story opens on a dark night where the biggest Yakuza-looking motherfucker in existence is trundling on down the road. This is a big change out the gate from the look of the first guy, who seemed unassuming enough in the original OVA. Nothing about Captain Ultra Chin here screams hero, I'll tell you that for free. Mr. Ass, Gas, or Grass stops to pick up a much less haggard-looking Malmut from the side of the road, though apparently they could bond over the fact that their chins could be used for industrial machinery. Assuming that this fella's bag is full of money or drugs, he punts him out of the car when he finds out it's just quote-unquote spare parts. I don't know what this guy was expecting. Everybody knows the only thing you find in duffel bags in the woods are porno mags. So the logical course of action is to deck the poor guy, steal his shit, and drive off. Because, why not? Cutting away from the horrific violence about to ensue once Malmut takes its revenge, we get pastoral scenes of Sho Fukamachi's average life. Oh, wait, that's not quite right. That's actually Judo Ashita from Gundam Double Zeta, not Sho Fukamachi. God, the state of your character designs, mate. Mizuki doesn't look much better, looking like a reject from a Rumiko Takahashi manga with her puffy, puppy ears hairstyle. Your hair is trying to eat your goddamn head. But at any rate, as they're walking home from school on the other side of the river, there's some mighty trouble. Now, interestingly enough, this is similar to the scene where they find the Guyver in the first place in the 1991 movie, which is called Mutronics for reference in the UK. That is a nice little reference to this. The Chronos goons are a little bit more visually interesting than the blue jumpsuits and helmets look, with some weird face gear and red and blue stripes, though I can't imagine it's for much more than display. Malmut transforms into a mess. I gotta say, nothing about this half-formed Zonoid doesn't look like it's pure agony every moment of its existence, but the weird warble they put on the vocal track for the Zonoids makes it sound a little goofy. Malmut, the poor sap, has a weird alien-esque head and no muscles from the forearms down to his fingers. He thinks that his skeleton hands can beat Gregol, a notion that he is quickly disabused of. In spite of getting his head turned into paste, Malmut gets the last laugh as usual, exploding into farty green fire. Sho is that close to avoiding the whole Guyver situation, but the big moron pushes the activation button when he's throwing it away, and it straight up frisbees back to suck him back in. The Guyver units are way more juicy in this OVA, and Sho dumps his gooey, half-made self into the river. If the rivers are anything like the rivers around here, that's more of a hazard than the Zoonoids. Ugh. It is worth noting that everything is drooly and spurty and gooey and icky in this, so if you have problems with body fluids, I'm sorry. But let's face it, if you have problems with body fluids, you probably didn't even make it this far in the video. More power to you if you did, though. Gregol takes his sweet time prepping to eat Mizuki, but of course Guyver 1 appears and makes ready to kick Gregol's dick in. Guyver 1 is in murder mode, and a test of strength results in both of Gregol's arms getting ripped right off. Gregol's horn is shattered, being meat instead of bone for some reason, and then he just gets his head straight sliced off. This Guyver knows how to use his more signature weapons right out of the box, and he uses them to chop down the fleeing Chronos goons. Of course, once he's done bloodying his hands, he has that usual freak out that makes the Guyver go away. Oh, look, you can try and return to a normal life. Huh. Smash cut to a bleach white skeleton. Wait, no. Smash cut to Sho sitting in class, thinking about lugging Mizuki's scrawny butt back to her home. His friends give him shit for it, and then they get shot to death. Yeah, no. Chronos doesn't like loose ends. He then goes to try and find a cop to help. Boy, wouldn't that be a nice first instinct? And finds the dude in the police box also very dead. This is bad news for Sho. But why worry about the impact of that when we can have leering shots of Commander Valkyria's butt? And of course, the obligatory shower scene that goes on for way too long. Yo, real talk, do people really find that sexy? Because it all this just comes off as sleazy to me, and of course they put exposition over it so you can't really skip out on it. Valkyria is extremely competent and very good at her job, which makes her being shown as nothing but a sex object here really frustrating. They do the whole Guyver means out of control bit while Sho goes to the cops again. The cop in particular that he goes to looks more like Jabba the Hutt, which fits in with this odd theme in this OVA of anyone over the age of 20 looking like some sort of mutant potato. This cop basically tells Sho he's too stupid to understand the Guyver and that he needs to cough up its location, which doesn't at any point set off warning bells to Sho that Detective Superchonk here is in on the deal. If he hadn't shown that Kronos had captured Mizuki, Sho probably still wouldn't have caught on until the cop turned into a Zoanoid. Which he does, by the way. Sho figures out how to transform on a whim, and now we see the Guyver in broad daylight. In this OVA, he's much more bone white than teal in coloration from the series going forward, which is fair considering the manga was still in its infancy. Vamor, this Zoanoid, has laser nipples in his shoulders that he cannot for the life of him aim at a stationary target standing a maximum of 15 yards away. Guyver 1's Mega Smashers, really gooey Mega Smashers, might I add, have no such problem, and he blasts the Zoanoid and the building next door with them. Back at Kronos HQ, we get an uncomfortably long minute and a half of Valkyria getting turned into a Guyver, complete with slimy tentacles implied to go right up her whole business down south, and one going into her throat. Again, lurid, creepy, not sexy. With as much fucked up shit as goes on in some of these older anime, it must have made for some weird conversations around the office water cooler. And worse yet, she passes out with a blush and a smile. You just know that if this was made today, she'd have that weird ahegao face on her instead. Sho runs off into the woods, into a cornfield, into a desert, finally reaching a barn in the middle of nowhere. Yet another disposable Kronos goon interrupts his happy memories and tells him where to go if he wants to save Mizuki. Sho doesn't go with him willingly, and instead starts his ass-kicking frenzy. He's chopping Zoanoids in half, dodging lasers and all that, all to some weird song that would have been cornball even for the time. But then, finally, we get the actual showdown between Guyvers. The two fail to talk it out and exchange the usual pleasantries before getting into a dust-up. Sho is not a fighterman. Valkyria is a fighter woman. Fighting ensues, and this fight would be interesting if it didn't have so much recycled animation. They use the spinning kick from Valkyria 3 times, the kick to the back of the head 3 times, the failed takedown twice, and the ankle lock to the airplane spin another 2 times. That's on top of the crashing through the ceiling bit being used twice as well. This OVA could have been a little bit more impressive in this matter, but at the same time, 1986, questionable budget, Guyver's a new thing, I guess we'll let it slide. Finally, Valkyria gets domed by an explosion and her control metal gets damaged, which means it's time for that big gooey finish. Sho goes for the 4th and goal punt and decks her in the control box, which triggers the meltdown. Giving her the Mega Smasher mercy kill, the animators want to make sure that we see her busters again before she gets turned into so much ash. Thanks, animators, thanks so fucking much for that. Alas, Valkyria, we hardly knew ye, but we sure saw a whole lot of you. The ship starts to fall apart, and now Genzo Makishima, who's been trying to run ops here, except this stupid Guyver keeps getting in the way, threatens to shoot Mizuki, saying how now he's lost everything. Guyver 3, out of nowhere, saves the day and tells Sho how to escape. Mizuki goes back to a normal life, with Guyver 1 now in the wind. Roll credits, everyone is miserable, yay for our team. This OVA is alright. It's a lot more stable in the animation department than the second OVA series, but tells a much flatter story. The action beats are okay, but they're really easy to poke holes in. But again, this OVA is as old as I am, so take that how you will. It's not in circulation anymore, so good luck finding a physical copy of it, but it's also on YouTube since no one is really looking that hard for it. If you need a peculiar way to spend an hour, by all means, go for it, but you could also spend that time reading the manga. But I think I've had about enough of transforming heroes for now, so I'll leave you on this thought. If you had the choice between turning into a Zoanoid or getting a Guyver unit and being hunted down for the rest of your life, which would you prefer? A stable job or superpowers? That being said, this is Professor Otaku, the greatest American anime critic, signing off.